Are you using a laptop stand like this Nextstand K1 or any other stand and still typing on the laptop keyboard instead of a separate keyboard and not using a separate mouse? Is this what you're doing? Well, you might be putting yourself at risk for severe wrist pain, discomfort, and even having to take costly and painful time off work. In this video, I'll show you why it's essential to use a separate keyboard and mouse when you've put your laptop up on a stand in order to avoid injury and pain. So let's dive in. A laptop stand like this Nextstand K1 laptop stand helps you elevate your laptop so the screen is nearer or at eye level, which is ideal for resting your head gently upon your neck, making your head, neck and shoulders are in the right place when you're spending a lot of time, as we do, at our keyboards. But here's the catch. If you're typing on your laptop keyboard like that, it's putting your wrist into extension like this. You can see as your fingers come up towards your elbow, that's extension. This is not good for your wrist. Let me explain why. Many less effective laptop stands will only raise your screen height 2 or 3 inches, well below where you need your screen to be. And they still leave your wrists in risky extension if you aren't using a separate keyboard and mouse. Suggestions that you can change the stand height regularly really don't combat the fact that your wrist extension is still happening. When your laptop's on a stand like that, the keyboard is angled upwards. And typing at that angle forces your wrists into an unnatural extension. You can see how my wrist is extended here. I'm sorry to say that this puts unnecessary tension into your tendons here, which is a great risk factor for pain and discomfort. Holding your wrist in this position and typing for periods of time puts a lot of strain on the tendons, on the muscles, and the whole structure of the wrist. And what's worse is that continuing to type like this puts continuous strain on your median nerve, which can lead to carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal tunnel syndrome and related repetitive strain injuries, RSI, take a long time to build up. Without you noticing, they sneak up on you, and they take a really long time to resolve too. So if you think you're getting away with it because you're not in pain now, there's a good chance that you're building up trouble for the future. Not only that, but you'll see here by reaching up to type on the keyboard like this, it's causing my shoulders to roll forwards as well, which will be happening with you as opposed to having them nicely out and in extension when you're typing on a separate keyboard. Not only that, as well as being uncomfortable and risk-worthy, typing at that angle can be slow and unnecessarily tedious. Why would you want to carry on like that when you're increasing those risks and the discomfort, those risks of carpal tunnel, tendonitis, repetitive strain injury, shoulder and neck pain, slower typing? It's all awkward. Why? Because when you're working at a desk, whether it's in a corporate office environment or a home office, or you're hot desking, or you're out and about in a shared workspace using a laptop, maintaining a neutral wrist position here is ideal. That's why when we're seated, we want to ensure that our wrists and our elbows are nice and neutral here in this position. And even if you use a standing desk, you want to make sure that your forearms here are parallel to the floor. And if you're typing on a laptop keyboard on a stand, the tendency is to have to here, to flex the elbows and to extend the wrists like so. So aligning your wrist in that neutral position removes the pressure on the median nerve and removes the risk of all of those complications. So let's take a look at what the ideal position is for you, whether you're in sitting or in standing. First, I'll do it without a laptop stand, then I'll show you with the laptop stand. Firstly, we want to be sitting well in a good supportive chair, ideally with a nice lumbar support here, with our hips just a little bit above our knees and sat well back into the chair there, so that we're nicely supported and comfortable. Next, see here how the keyboard is placed. So the B button, think B for belly button, is in front of your belly button here. And when you're sitting, your arms are at this nice neutral angle, parallel to the floor here. And the wrists here, see how that's nice and neutral as well, as we reach for the keyboard, being nice and open here in the shoulders. And make sure your mouse is nice and close to the keyboard too. You don't want to be having to reach over like this to reach for your mouse. My handy hint for getting your hands onto your keyboard well is to bring them round and on like this with a bit of a flourish, and that'll leave your hands resting nicely and your shoulders nice and open Try that now, as opposed to bringing your hand straight onto the keyboard, which tends to rotate your shoulders forward slightly and cause a bit of compression in the neck. So hips above knees ever so slightly. We're sat in the chair nicely at the right height in relation to the table, so our forearms are parallel to the floor. Our hands are resting with our wrists nice and neutral on the keyboard, and our mouse is nice and close to us. When you've got that, set your screen up. So the top of your screen, it is about eye height, generally about arm's length away, depending on your eyesight. So that's it in sitting. Let's have a look in standing. Here I am in standing. Similar principles apply. Obviously, we don't need the chair. You want to make sure that your forearm is nicely parallel to the floor here, and the wrist is nice and neutral and open to the keyboard. B for belly button in front of your belly button. Your mouse nice and close by. The screen height at about eye height for the top of the screen and about arm's length away. Here we are. I've got a laptop in front of me on the K1 stand, and I've elevated the laptop so that the top of the screen here is as best as possible close to eye height. Then I have the separate keyboard and mouse. Look what we were complaining of earlier, that wrist extension there is no good for us at all. Whereas here with a separate keyboard and mouse placed nicely in front of the laptop screen, B for belly button in front of your tummy and the mouse next to you. Whether you're in sitting or in standing, the principles are exactly the same. So to conclude, I hope I've persuaded you the benefits of using a separate keyboard and a separate mouse in relation to your laptop keyboard when you've raised it on a laptop stand. It's not rocket science, but over the long term, it will make a massive difference to your comfort, to your arm health and safety, and to just how you feel at the end of the day. So make sure you invest wisely when you buy a laptop stand in an associated keyboard and mouse if you don't have them already, because those creeping pains that you get will build up over time, and you don't want to be surprised at the end of the day with pain that's causing you discomfort and time off work. It's just something that a lot of us don't consider. When you're using a laptop stand, use a separate keyboard and use a separate mouse.